Hey friends, just want to tell you about something I'm very excited about. And so let me tell you the story first. You can tell what it's about. I don't know how many years ago, since I've lived in, my wife and I have lived here, we've gotten to know the neighbors, and we've got some really great neighbors. And one of them in particular I've become friends with, and his name is John, and he is a fantastic singer-songwriter, guitarist, does the whole like Chet Atkins stuff, if you know who that is, really fantastically. And so we enjoy music, and we enjoy talking about guitar and everything. And for a long time, that's all I knew about him, as a guitarist, singer. And I think maybe sometime after I had started really getting into synthesizers, I had probably mentioned it to him, and he said, "Oh, I've got a synthesizer in the garage." And I said, "Well, what do you have?" I'm like, "Mine's, he hasn't played synthesizer in a long time, so it must be something old and something cool." He said, "Well, it's an ARP 2600. Like, really? That's awesome. And so fast forward quite a long time, on Synth Network, which is Facebook group, and live stream, which I co-host. We've just been having some really amazing guests on, and so we were having Dina Pearlman on, and of course that's Eleanor Pearlman's daughter, ARP. And I thought about that 2600, and I asked John, say, "Hey, if it's not too much trouble, would I be able to borrow it to set it up, that as we're talking with Dina, we could have a 2600 set up here?" And "Oh yeah, I'll get it out for you." And so he graciously let me borrow it, and we showed it during the show, and I got to check it out. And it's cool. It's just great to see such a great iconic synthesizer, a piece of history. And so after the show, I was checking things out, opened it up, did a visual inspection of everything. It's in great shape. I've already taken it apart, obviously, but you can see that John took very good care of it. And I've got there's the cases for everything, and the cables, and also, check this out. Even the original manual, the 2600 manual here, and also had a 2500 manual, ARP 2500, and these are just full of really great stuff. So, of course, you can find copies of this online in a PDF, but I thought it was so cool to be able to have some original manuals and to be able to look through them. So, see, where was I? So after the show, I checked it out and eventually tried firing it up, and could hear things power up. A little bit of a smell to it. Knew that the capacitor had gone bad, or at least one. Let's say that. And so not in working condition, but I packed it up, and we just wanted to know what the state of it was, so I could tell him. And so we were talking after I took it back to him, and we got to talking about doing a trade, because this is something that, man, it's just begging to be restored and put back to working order, and it wasn't something that he was using. And so we ended up making a trade, some of my guitar equipment for the ARP, and it was one of those really great trades, especially when you're doing trades with friends. You want to be careful and want to be good for both sides. And this was definitely one of those deals where, he loved what he got from me, and I loved what I got from him. And so we're both extremely happy about everything. And so then it's like, okay, well, I've got this 2600 here. And so figured it's just going to be a very long-term project for me. My history, I'm not an electrical engineer or anything, but as I was working as a musician, that money went to pay the bills, but then what I did for gear money and where I got most of my stuff was buying broken vintage gear, fixing it, and then reselling it. And so that brought in a lot of income over the years, mostly with guitar equipment. So tons and tons of old pedals, like electro-harmonic stuff. Oh man, I don't even know how many. I mean, I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of old Big Muffs and old phasers, Neutron and Maestro, and I mean just tons of stuff that have done that. So I've had some good experience fixing things, and this is not the kind of project that you'd want an amateur to do. And while I'm not an expert, it's something that's within my abilities. And I thought, well, this could be a long-term project that I'm just going to slowly work my way through it systematically. And it's kind of hard. It's a little bit difficult because, getting something like this, like, oh, I want to hear it, I want to play it. And I just know that I want to take my time and do it the right way. And it's going to be quite a bit of work. So also have another great friend. Recently, his name is John as well. And this guy's like, he's a good friend. He's like an uncle to me. He's my parents' neighbor. And he for a living, he does electronic work. Like he designs power supplies for robots. So like his knowledge is just so up there. And been able to borrow oscilloscopes and things and get his advice on quite a few projects. So I feel like, well, I've got this other friend that will also be able to help if I find myself at being puzzled by anything. So what's next, really? Well, by the way, let me show you the keyboard here. So this is the 3604P keyboard. This is not the duophonic one. This is the monophonic one. And of course, the keys are, at first press, they're a little sticky to go down. And after that, they definitely need work. So keyboard's going to need to be cleaned out, probably some new grommets, and then I'll have to check the electronic section also to see what's going on in there. The last time that John had fired it up, said the keyboard wasn't working off of it. So that'll be some work. With the 2600, and this, by the way, as you can see, is the gray and white. It's 1974, and it's the 2600P version 3. That means it's got the 4027-1 oscillators, which is great. They're very stable oscillators for a vintage synthesizer. And it has the 4012 filter, which is right here, which is the 24 decibel ladder filter. And of course, they changed this in later designs when it went to the black and orange casing. So I'm really happy about what model it is. This is, to me, like the ideal as far as the vintage 2600s. I know people really love the very rare ones, the blue Marvin and the gray Mini. But I understand those are a little less stable, although I heard they sound really good and they're crazy exorbitant amounts of money. So for me, I think this is just really an ideal one here. And you can see I use a spring reverb here. It's a full, like 17-inch or so, much like they would use in old Fender amps. And power supply in the bottom of the case. And then you can see kind of the sections here. This has the preamp and the ring modulator, the 3 oscillators, the filter, and the VCA and everything else is over here. Speakers, and taking a look at everything. So first steps with this will probably be to totally repair the power supply. It does put out power, but I want to check out the electrolytics in the main power supply because they haven't been used in a long time and electrolytics can dry out. Also, a very common problem in ARP synthesizers are the use of tantalum capacitors. And so tantalum, as I understand, was used because they're small, they can fit in tight spaces, they're fairly accurate, At least, you know, we're talking 70s capacitors. But the quality of them in the 70s were not that great, and so a lot of ARP synthesizers fail because of the tantalum capacitors shorting out. So at bare minimum, be going and checking out all those capacitors. In fact, you can see on this module, these little orange drops like here are the tantalums. And I'm not sure if the angle's okay there, but you can see some of the electrolytics. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the power bus here. So I'm not having power going to any modules. I don't want to further damage anything. But I'm going to get the power supply working correctly, emitting the right voltages. And then I'll go module by module and replace the tantalum capacitors. Also, the sliders, fortunately, none of them are broken. They all have the caps for them, what you want to call it, the slider tips, the pointer knob, not knob, but whatever you call them. So lots of baggies and Sharpie to be done here. Keep everything organized. And it's just going to be a slow project to work on. After that, also as I'm going through the modules, again, the sliders need to be cleaned. They work, they move, but it's a little bit rough, and so just they need to be cleaned out. So disassemble the fader, clean it out, and then module by module, hopefully I'll get this working so can start hearing it a little bit at a time and then start putting everything back, and we'll eventually end up with a working vintage ARP 2600. So very excited about it. I'm really looking forward to finishing this. I think the main thing is not to rush, so to go through everything methodically. Definitely I'm in that mode of like, I want to hear it. But I know that this is of such immense importance to me that I want to do it the right way. So hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be putting out a video here and there as I get more and more done on it, just short videos. This will probably be the longest until you actually get to hear it, but I kind of keep you appraised of what's going on with it. But if you've seen Synth Network or seen some pictures of mine on Facebook or something, you'll see this in the background, but this is what it is. So anyways, hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you later.